Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how to solve trigonometric equations involving sum and difference identities and double angle identities. There is really no difference in solving equations involving double angle identities and sum and difference identities with the basic equations that we have solved before. The only difference that you'll see here is that you need to simplify some expressions using the new identities. Let's start with the first equation, sine 2x plus sine x equal to 0. As you can see, the first expression is sine 2x, which can be expressed in a different form, while sine x is in basic form. So to solve this equation, I have to change sine 2x by its identity. So note that sine 2x is equal to 2 sine x cosine x. Therefore, this equation will become 2 sine x cosine x plus sine x equal to 0. After you simplify the equation, you have to determine what you can do with the new expression. So there is no definite steps that you can do other than to factor out the sine x. So we can do sine x, and if I will do that, you have 2 cosine x plus 1 equal to 0. So again, if you factor out sine x, you will have 2 cos x for the first term, and if you factor out sine x, then it will leave you a 1. Okay, so be careful when you factor out the sine x, it is not 0. Otherwise, if you make that 0 and you simplify this again, you will not get the original expression. Okay, now once you have the factored form, you can now set each factor to 0. So sine x is equal to 0 and 2 cosine x plus 1 is equal to 0. Remember, if two expressions being multiplied will equal to 0, either of them is a 0. Therefore, sine x is equal to 0 or 2 cosine x plus 1 is equal to 0. And from here, all you have to do is to find the x. To find the x given a function, you have to get the inverse of the other side. So that means sine inverse 0. And this can be done using your calculator. So sine inverse of 0, so that will be equal to 0. So one of the angles is 0. Now, can we have another answer aside from 0? It says solve for all angles between 0 and 360 inclusive. Okay, so 0 is included as well as 360 because the location of 0 and 360 degrees are in the same position. Or, in other words, the terminal side of the angle 0 and 360 degrees are the same. So if one of the answers is 0, automatically the other answer is 360 degrees. Another question is there another angle aside from 0, 360 that will give us a value for sine to be 0? Normally, one can check the sine of 90, the sine of 180, and the sine of 270. If I will find the sine of 90, the sine of 90 is equal to 1. The sine of 180 is equal to 0. Therefore, I can add 180 to the list of the answers. If I get sine of 270, that will give me a negative 1. So you can check this using your calculator. So that means, or from our solution, we found that 180 is also the value for x. If you will not use your calculator, another way is through the use of the unit circle, and by labeling the points 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. And use the formula for sine theta is equal to y over r, cosine theta is equal to x over r, tangent theta is equal to y over x. Now, since this is a unit circle, then the value of r is equal to 1. So all this will become sine equals y, or rather sine theta is equal to y, cosine theta is equal to x because r is 1, and tangent theta is equal to y over x. Okay, as you look at it, these points have x and y as their coordinates. So if I want to find sine of 0 degrees, that means it's the y value which is 0. Sine of 360 is also 0. If I look for sine of 90, the sine of 90 depends on the y, so sine of 90 is 1. Sine of 180, the y value for 180 is 0. Sine of 270, the y value of this point is negative 1. Okay, so there are two options. You use your calculator after finding one of the answers, or you use this idea. Okay, so it's up to you. But if you're familiar with the numbers, it will be easy for you to do this. Okay, now the second equation is 2 cosine x plus 1 equal to 0. So simplify or manipulate the equation in such a way that x will be left on one side. So 2 cosine x is equal to negative 1 means I can divide this by 2 to make cosine x is equal to negative 1/2. And to find the value for x, this is equal to cosine inverse of negative 1/2. So to find cosine inverse of negative 1/2, so I can calculate that using my calculator. So negative 1/2 or 0.5, and that will give me an x equal to 120 degrees. Okay, but again, then we look at the other possible value for x. If cosine is a negative 1/2, that means cosine is located on the second and on the third quadrant. The 120 degrees is the angle in the second quadrant. So there is another angle that will give us a cosine which is equal to negative 1/2. And that will be the angle from 0 up to the terminal side that is located on the third quadrant. So how do we find the measure of this angle? Now, since these two angles give us negative 1/2, the reference angles must be the same. So if this is 120, this is equal to 60 degrees. So this is also equal to 60 degrees. So to find the other angle, that means I have to go to 180 plus 60 more. So 180 plus 60 is equal to 240. So that makes 240 the other possible value for x. You can again find other angles as long as x is not limited to a certain range. But for this problem, it says that the angles can only be between 0 and 360 inclusive, meaning you cannot go beyond 360 or the angle cannot go beyond 360 in this case. So there are only two answers for x, wherein cosine x is equal to negative 1/2. And these are 120 degrees and 240 degrees. So in this problem, in this equation, sine 2x plus sine x equal to 0, we found 5 answers. The first 3 came from sine x equal to 0, and the other 2 came from cosine x equals negative 1/2. Okay, so just to summarize the steps, you have to check the equation if you need to simplify it. In this case, you're given sine 2x, which is a double angle, so you can replace that by its double angle identity. And from there, after you replace it, you have to identify, or you have to check what should be done with the new expression. In this case, there are two signs, or a sine function is in the first expression and a sine function is also in the second expression. So the key is to factor the expression. And that's what we did. We factor out sine x, and we came up with sine x times the other factor, 2 cosine x plus 1. And from here, you set each factor to 0 and just solve the equation using the inverse and finding the other possible answers using CAS or the quadrantal angles. Let's go to the second equation. The second equation is 3 cosine x plus sine t 90 minus x. Same idea. You have to simplify or check if you can simplify any of the expressions. Cosine x is in basic form, while sine 90 minus x is in the form of a difference of two angles. Therefore, I can use the identity sine a minus b to simplify sine 90 minus x. If I will do that, so this is sine a cosine b plus minus cosine a sine b. Using the identity, I can make 3 cosine x plus sine 90 minus x into, so this is 3 cosine x plus sine 90 cosine x minus cosine 90 sine x equal to 2. And this equation can be simplified by finding the exact value of sine 90 and cosine 90. Sine 90 is equal to 1. Cosine 90 is equal to 0. So you can use your calculator if you want to find sine 90 and cosine 90. And that will give you 1 and 0 respectively. So the second expression becomes cosine x because 1 times cosine x is cosine x. And the third one is 0 because 0 times sine x is equal to 0, equal to 2. And you can have it 3 cosine x plus cosine x is equal to 2. Now be careful with this. So as in letter A, we saw sine x and sine x on the same side and we factored it out. If a step came up from a problem, it doesn't mean that you have to do that all the time. Take note that 3 cosine x plus cosine x is the same as 4 cosine x. When the expression becomes trigonometric expression, it's not easy for some students to see that you are actually adding the same expressions. So there are 3 of cosine x and another cosine x. When you combine the two, they will become 4 cosine x. Okay? So this is also equal to 2. And then your goal is to solve for x, so you simplify it until you isolate the x. So cosine x 2 over 4 is equal to 1 half. Cosine x is equal to 1 half implies x is equal to cosine inverse of 1 half. If you know the angle, then that will be good. If you're not sure of the angle, you can use your calculator to find cosine 1 half. So that is cosine inverse of 1 half or 0.5 will give me the value for x, which is equal to 60. So 60 is between 0 and 360. So 60 is one of the answers. Now how do we find the other answer for this? So the other answer will come from another quadrant. So if cosine is a positive 1 half and cosine is only positive on the first and on the fourth, the 60 is on the first and the other answer is the angle whose terminal side is in the fourth quadrant. So again, the reference angle for this angle is 60. So to find the measure of the angle, we go from 0 to the terminal side in a counterclockwise direction until we reach the terminal side. So if this is 60 and I have to compute for this, and one circle or one revolution is equal to 360 degrees, then the angle that we need is 300 degrees. That is 360 minus 60. Okay? So the x values that will give us cosine x equal to 1 half are 60 and 300. Okay, so that's it. So I hope you understand my solution.